history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity.
Let's talk about a place called the land of the blacks, where science and culture was a tangible fact, where language and history was written down in sects of stone, where African indigenous ruled in flesh and bone. For thousands of years it was just their home, till invaders came in and possessed their homes, trying to take their identity with enmity, their divinity and energy. So let's remedy their villainy. Now we change the tide, you can't hide with false claims and false names and false pride, false outrage. We've turned the page, your confidence is frayed, all your fabrications are slayed and have no sway.
If you think we here to play, we're here to say on any given day, we not afraid to catch the fade. K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity.
My people are comedic, the Greeks called them Egyptian, and with purpose and force change their descriptions, depictions, their ethical inscriptions, their medical prescriptions to alleviate afflictions of deceitful symptoms of evil intentions. Now the suspension of their wisdom has been free from your prisons. Didn't think we would catch you, shipped the nose off of statues so you could tell the lie, so we dispelled a lie. We inhaled, exhaled, repelled, expelled the lie. Liar, it's time to retire, your time has expired. Lapse, collapse, thrown in the fire. Burn, baby, burn, you pariah. K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. I give thanks to Cheikh, Annie Diop, and Dr. Bennett, John Henry Clark. They brought us in. Professor James Smalls and Anthony Browder. D.I. Lobingo, we couldn't be more prouder. Jabari Osaze, Dr. Reggie Kaba, Kamania teachers. Our scholars, our brothers and fathers, our ancestors' achievements. We see it, we breathe it, we free it. Their accomplishments in our past and their bereavement.
K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. Oh, K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. In antiquity, in antiquity, in antiquity, ubiquity. Oh, K-E-M-E-T is where a lot started in history. They civilized many lives in antiquity, and their influence live in ubiquity. In antiquity, in ubiquity, antiquity, and ubiquity.
Peace to the family. Hope that you can all hear me. Thanks for the great comments, and thanks for showing up. Our brother sa.neter is doing what he does on the Knicks seasons, and so there you go, New York. Let's pull it off. I want to thank everybody for showing up, and I hope to have a good show. What I'm going to be talking about today is Nubia. Nubia is a European word, as they made territories with the suffix ia. And so Nubia is taken from the gold town Nubit, and it's a convention. So what I'm going to be talking about today is giving you some terminology on the area. I'm not going to be focusing, believe it or not, on Egypt much or Kemet much at all. Why? Well, because we become Egypt-centric or Kemet-centric, Tameri-centric, ta, let's see, the two lands, Tawi-centric. And we don't talk about the regions around or that's included in the Nile Valley. So I want to start this conversation with a paper from another author, the location of Ta-Seti and related subjects. Ta-Seti, the land of the bows, Ta. We often hear that Ta-Seti was the first gnome of what we call Kemet. And unfortunately, there's no references for that. It's more romantic than anything. But it is a fact that what we call Kemet came from the south and from the western and eastern deserts, right? And also from the north, right? And we have mentioned Ta-Seti. I want to mention a little bit more about Ta-Seti because that is an indigenous word, at least to the ancient Egyptians, and possibly to the Nehes or the Southerners. So let me just go through this. And how's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody is doing well, that families are doing well. Great. Oh, there it was. And I added it to the stage. So I'm going to put it on a big screen if I can. Great. And like Suntan says, show sa.neter some love so he can make a little money while he's enjoying his basketball game. And he's allowed me to come on. I'll put in my Cash App later. But for now, show sa.neter some love. And if you come into the building, as you come into the building, please like the video. Now, I've done this presentation on other channels. Haven't yet done it on this channel. I did it on King's Monologue, and I talked about it on Camdiverse. And so I was just looking for some time to do it on this show, and so I have it tonight. Okay, so let's talk about Ta-Seti and related subjects. Okay. Okay, so the author says that the title that that Samia Bashir Dafala has done was suggested to her by her students, a group of young Sudanese amateur researchers. And let's get to this point right here. The earliest mention of the toponym Ta-Seti. Kalmbach believes that Ta-Seti referred originally to the first gnome of Upper Egypt between two natural barriers, Elephantine and Jebel Silsit, the first being its capital. By saying originally, she must meant the earliest. However, I find the conclusion quite unacceptable for several reasons. One reason is that we have evidence for the existence of the earliest form of Ta-Seti in the so-called Siali impression. The original seal was discovered by George Reisner in a pit in Siali. Why is that important? Because the name of Ta-Seti, which we will see right here, seems to be a southern name that possibly the Egyptians later used. But the word Ta-Seti was originally born here, right here. Can anybody see Ta-Seti here? So they don't talk too much about this, which is very important. That it seems, one second, somebody's talking. Yes, is there a problem? Hey, La. Oh, I'm doing a show.
What's up?
Black News 102. Bye. Sometimes, often, my friends call me in to tell me if there's a problem with the sound or something like that. But Brother La was just saying hello to me. Well, getting back to this subject, it appears that the word Ta-Seti is a southern word, and Egyptologists avoid this because then they have to say that writing began not in Egypt per se, but in the South. And that is really problematic. So the first word that one of the first words we know of the location is from the indigenous people of the South. Now, there is another civilization, which we call this Nubian A culture, but there is, by convention, but there is another related group of people that these people are communicating with, and this is the what they call as a convention, Nakata civilization. Nakata 3, Nakata 2, Nakata 1. But at this time, we have proto-writing, right, from Nakata. But in this civilization right here, we actually have a word that will live on. It's one of the oldest words, and it's not Egyptian, and it's from the South, right? And it's in the Siali seal. So let's look at the Siali seal. Well, yeah, some people could say the south of Egypt, right, or the South. That would be okay, right? Because when they refer to the another group that will come later, slightly later, the Nehes, right? We know whether it's the Nehes bird that they use as a glyph based on the migration of this bird is in the south of Egypt, south of Kemet, south of Tawi, right? South of Tameri. Okay. Okay. So let's look at this. So in this Nakata A seal, we have Nubian dogs. That is a important part of Nubian culture. Nubian hunter dogs. We have this animal, right, on top of kind of like some type of platform, and this most likely would be set, because it's not the same as this animal right here, because of the way that the tail is presented, and we see Set looking like this. We see offerings of water or milk, which would be important to that culture. And then we see the falcon on a sarek. Egypt is not born yet at this time, right? These are the cultures before Egypt that Egypt will borrow. We see a man with 3 arms or 3 legs, if you want, however you want to say. This fellow right here, and he has 3 legs. And then we see this glyph right here, right? And we see this glyph right here and this glyph right here, which is a feminine T. So if I want to read it as the ancient Egyptians later read it in the hieroglyphic, it's Ta, Set, right? Ta-Seti. So we have writing here earlier than ancient Egyptian with what will become what we know of ancient Egyptian kind of iconography. And then we have a hut here, temple, and we have Hor. And so we have, and then we have a T. So this makes it kind of feminine. So this seems to be a temple of Hut Horet, which we know as Hathor. Hey, peace. Who else came in here? So Rob is in here. Then we have Brilliance here. And we have Samorakim, peace to you. And Brother La showed up. And what is this question? Religion question it all, question existence until some questions are solved. And then we have good brother Harwin. Harwin is, how can I say, a factor. Harwin is a factor, right? I think that you're going to see more of Harwin. We saw him have a very important and interesting conversation with Ankh, and that is going to be more interesting. And we have, as it goes on, so pay attention to the name and the brother Harwin. There's Radam Kepler, 1970. Okay. So what I am saying right now is that Egyptologists can't deal with is the fact that iconography that would become Egypt is here at roughly anywhere between 38 to 36 BC before we have the unification of the two lands by Nerma. And so we have this incredible iconography. And it is a problem for Egyptologists. And this pretty much described what I described, all the elements that I described on the Siali Stela. And there is the second known earliest occurrence of the name Ta-Seti is here. And we see the Horus on the Sharek here. We see a symbol that's like a myrrh symbol, beloved symbol. And I'm not going to say that this is an Ankh, but it could be a composite character of myrrh and the Ankh. We see over here Ta-Seti again, and we have some information here that here you see the set as kind of a determinative, right? And we can only think possibly with the stories of Horus and Set, and some in the opposition between a Set and Horus in some of the text, but Set seems to be a foreigner, and this is their icon, and this is very early. And here I'm thinking that this is a prisoner with his hands behind his back, right? And a beard. right? And the only people that can be in this region is Africans at this time period, um, in this time period. And so we have another important iconography that we find in Egypt is the beard. And we have this symbol that will be in Egypt, mess, but we don't know um, uh, actually what this is, this group of foxtails in Nubia. When it goes into Tawi civilization, the meaning may change. Okay, and so then we have this symbol. Dr. Mario Beatty talked about this particular symbol, uh, and it's not in a, it's in a town, it's in a fortified town, and it's definitely, you see the cattle and you see Horus and you see Ra or Ra, and then you see circling. So not going to try to translate this at all, but we can see some of the concepts of the sun circling. And then we see whatever is happening is on top of the cattle culture, bovine and Horus. Okay. And um, so these are the two. And then it says the date of the appearance of the 22nd Upper Egyptian gnome. So Ta-Seti will become part of what we call ancient Egypt. And again, some people believe that Ta-Seti is the first gnome. And that would be interesting because it seemed that Nermer came from the Thinite region, and then he began his unification going north and south. And it seems that Ta-Seti was one, just as the northern part, Lower Egypt was one, and it was put in the civilization that we know as Tawi civilization. So it says we do not know for certain the date of the creation of the Egyptian administrative system based on the gnomes. At one time, it is said that there were 20 gnomes for Lower Egypt and 22 for Upper Egypt. Supposedly, the system emerged through turning large villages into centers to facilitate collection of tax by the ruling monarchs. As it appears from the traditional list of gnomes, each gnome has a special symbol or sign. Some gnomes were represented in the form of a standard, the hair gnome, the ibis gnome. Also, each gnome has a temple dedicated to a main god and a minor temple for other local gods. So there are some researchers in our community, some big ones like Smash Rockwell, and some others like King J. And from them, we would like to know exactly why some of them believe that Ta-Seti is the first gnome of Egypt. We have to do that with research and sources. Okay, so the author is arguing that Ta-Seti is the first gnome is unconvincing. One can argue that there exists a far convincing and compelling reason behind giving that name. Having considered and analyzed the historical events of time, I am now more inclined to believe that the 22nd Upper Egyptian gnome was created primarily to become a new home for the displaced A group people after defeating the ruler of Ta-Seti and destroying his capital and the royal cemetery at Kustal, whether King Hor-Aha or Jajur or whoever. The A group population of Lower Nubia was widely dispersed. Some fled southward, following the Niles. Others headed eastward and westward into the deserts. Thousands were undoubtedly taken prisoner to Egypt. Probably part of the population anticipated the catastrophe and surrendered peacefully. Under such situations, after considering the best way as to how make most of the defeated A group people, the Egyptian authorities decided upon accommodating them inside its borders, naming their new home Ta-Seti. Thereafter, the region was organized to become the southern border. We must acknowledge, however, that formerly the idea of a fixed border had probably never existed. Populations moved freely between Upper Egypt and northern Sudan. In support of this conjecture, we find many scholars believe that the fortress of Elephantine was built sometime between the first and the third dynasty. Hendricks, for example, is inclined to date it in the first dynasty. Fortifications continued during the later dynasties to include Edfu, Komombo, and El Kab. El Kab is really important because in El Kab we can find rock art, early rock art, so that we know people from the Green Sahara at some point stayed in El Kab. Yeah. So let me see what the chat has to say about this. Let me take this off. Okay. All right. Okay. Last talking to Harwin. And okay, so what does this say? I got some pseudo stuff on one of the standards on the normal palette about the last standard. Okay. I'd like to know what that is. All righty. So for some of our researchers, we would like to know what you think about the collapsing of Lower Nubia by Nermer, and that the administration of the new kings in Har, Aha, and Jajur, right, giving this displaced Nubian A group a home in the region. Okay, so what else do I want to say about this? Okay. They talk about Ta-Seti. Now, two references to Ta-Seti are found in the annals of King Amenemhet. Now, Amenemhet is a Middle Kingdom king. He's after Mentuhotep II, and after him is Sin-Warset. And King Amenemhet, he's the founder of what they say the 12th dynasty. The first reference comes in the work of the prophecy of Nefertiti, right? Everybody should, if you study the field, you should be familiar with the prophecy of Nefertiti. It spoke of a king, Ameni, who will restore peace to Egypt, Kemet. He will come from the south, son of a woman of Ta-Seti, a child of Upper Egypt. The sentence is so precise that it located Ta-Seti in Upper Egypt in the 22nd nome. Ameni here is a shortened form of Amenemhet. The second reference comes from inscriptions discovered in the rocks of Korsoko in Lower Nubia. It records a campaign by King Amenemhet, same as above, in his last year against Wawed, right? But no mention of Ta-Seti anymore. Okay. So, and then it talks about some other sources talking about Ta-Seti, the Napatan, that is the group of Africans from the south that ultimately retook what we call Kemet, right? And the first Napatan source is a stela of King Taharko, discovered at Kawa. In line 8 of Kawa, the fourth, Taharka tells of his journey from Ta-Seti to Thebes in response to desire of his brother Shabitku. In the stela Kawi, line 16-18, he speaks of his mother Abar as being living in Ta-Seti. From there, she came northward to see him crowned in Memphis. So the beautiful thing about ancient Egypt, Tawi civilization, is that there is writing at the time of things happening, not like the Abrahamic or at least the Hebraic and the Christian, particularly the Hebraic story that leads to Christianity. So here we find actual writing at the time of the peoples. And so this becomes sometimes an embellished mythology, but it's an embellished mythology sometimes based on actual time periods and people. Okay, so there's a reference in here, um, placing the white crown, that's of the south, onto the head of Tutmosis, and in here they're going to reference to Dedan. Dedan is a neter of the Nubians, of the Southerners, Dedan, and so we should look that up. Um, and and then in his election stela, Espalta is important because when I brought on Patasika Sor, he is pretty much the guardian uh, of this uh, tomb room of Espalta. And he did a lot of the work in it as they were creating the only tomb room of a Nubian in the United States. And I thought bringing him on for at least at that was so important. But Dedan is a neter of Kush who lives in the town of the Holy Mountain. Now, Dedan may have been absorbed uh, to be, when we look at the Hotep Dinosut and we look at Inpu, right? Dedan may have been absorbed into ancient Egypt and changed into Inpu, because both of them rest at a holy mount, at what they call a holy mountain. So where are we at here? Let me just look at the chat before I go on. This teacher always throwing shots. It's fine. Very good, Reggie. And reminded me of something I got to search for about the energy between Nubia and Kemet. Thank you. I think Dejuan is our moon. Interesting, Harold. Hmm. Could be Holy Mountain, but I don't know yet. Uh, I don't know yet who names Amun, right? I know in the Egyptian narrative, but I don't know. But that you let me know, right? Let me know. Um, I say Nubia and Kemet battle frequently, kind of how we do now. Um, hmm, hmm. Okay. Um, there's definitely truth to that, in the sense of that they were primarily brothers and sisters until the kings or the Norsuts drew borders where these people from the south could no longer cross into their territory that they had been doing since the earliest of times, with their cattle. And this new civilization, this new culture, Kemet, Tawi civilization, forced them to pay taxes. And so, well, my point is, I don't think it's the Southerners' fault. I do think that there was some real conflict based on borders, right? I don't think they treat each other like we treat each other now, because our fights have no meaning. Their their conflicts had meaning. So let's go here. The ending of that. was Kemet being invaded by the Hekakasu? Well, the Hekakasu is a confederation of the people in the Levant, uh, supposedly from the Levant in North Africa, but probably more confederations of what we call Libyans, right? Who were always there, and another population called Rakites that were always treated as foreigners inside. And believe it or not, the Southerners were also part of the Hekakasu. So much so that one of the kings of the Hekakasu is named Nehesi, right? So let's go over here. Information provides great, but your teaching style puts me to sleep. Um, I don't know if you've ever, I'm pretty sure you've been in college. Um, if you've been in college, uh, how can I say, my teaching style is right now academic and collegiate. Uh, I'm not throwing shots. I'm not trying to entertain. I'm trying to let the people give some people some information. So when you wake up, maybe you can backtrack. I don't know what else I want to say. Yes, your hypotheses, and glad that you put it like that, is because of the mountain of Jebel Barco. But I'm not so sure that the Nubian A population, right, is the same as the four Southerners in Jebel Barkal. So I don't want to collapse the civilizations, Harwin. I don't want to say that the people in Ta-Seti, those people in between the first and second cataract, made it all the way down to the seventh cataract. I don't see evidence that they were one polity. If they were, then when Egypt invaded uh, Lower Nubia, they should have been wiped out by this huge population that later Taharqa uh, controlled, which was called a double kingdom. College professors usually have more charisma. Do they? Hmm. Do they? Um, slow passion for what they teach. Show slow passion for which they teach. Um, I have a lot of charisma. I'm just not doing it on this show because I'm teaching, right? If I'm calling somebody a convert, that's another story. But if you can, you have a choice. You can stay with me or not. So I'm going to put this one down, and then I'm going to find what my writing is and my thinking of it. Okay. Richard says you should have done this presentation on Friday. No, sa.neter. Oh, no, no. sa.neter is, that's prime time. sa.neter, I'm glad I got the space. Uh, no, I don't get a lot of time like this. This is prime time for sa.neter. Okay. So just maybe more emphasis on key points is what they're asking for. Everything I said is key points. Ta-Seti, the first, possibly the first writing. You went to sleep on that. Not you, but generally. Writing began in the South by that evidence that I just showed, the Ciali Stela and the other. That's bombs, right? That Nurmer or Menes invaded both the South and the North. And I'm getting to the point of unpacking terminology, right? So I have two ways to do it. I can deliver it with my voice, or I can just let you read and then you really fall asleep. So I don't know how to teach a complicated subject because most people, first of all, very few people teach this subject. And second of all, when many of the people embellish and lie, or they're ignorant of it, or they don't know it. And I can tell that they don't know about it. Put on the chat right now, what scholar do you know in our community has talked about the nomenclature of the South? Now, Smash Rockwell, definitely. Outside of Smash Rockwell, who? So let me get out the chat and let me just start teaching. I am not always in battle mode. And my mistake was going into the daggone chat. Right? So the title of my presentation is Old Kingdom and Nubian Ethnonyms in Egyptian Texts and Modern Racial Historiography. And I'm talking about, I'm going to use Weni, Harkhuf, and Ta-Seti. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. Why? Because I think that this region is so important for us not to be Egyptian centric, not to join cults, right? I have an explosive presentation, probably more in debate form, to kind of end the significance of some of these so-called Kemetic teachers that is coming up. We shall see. I am still upset with this, the netters or real, real, but they're not literal. I'm upset with that BS. We'll get to that. But now I'm talking about a very important part of Nile Valley culture. Dr. Anthony Browder. Okay, so Dr. Anthony Browder, he does speak of the South, right? Because of his dig in Egypt. But what does Anthony Browder, Dr. Anthony Browder, or Brother Anthony Browder really say about the South? His work largely seems to deal with the Napata groups of people, but not the groups that I'm getting ready to talk about. Okay. And if you don't know the difference, I'm not talking to you, but if you don't know the difference between the periods of 38 and 3600 BC to what you call the 25th dynasty, which is about 800 BC, I think there's a lot of space in between there. And I am talking about the space in the South in the earliest period, right? But thanks for mentioning him. Anybody else? Because I appreciate that. Right. Great. So King J is I'm very proud of King J. He's a fast learner. I think I saw you today on that disastrous show bringing Scott Hendricks, who I cited as one of the only people to talk about that science before the medieval period, or is not science. Hendricks does that. But I thought that you was going to jump up in the chat and say, well, Ankh in them, I thought astrology was not science. I thought astronomy was science, but astrology. So Scott Hendricks is saying astrology is science, and that kills them. And they couldn't even get up the energy to challenge Scott Hendricks on or bring up the fact that science was not sciences, ancient science is proto-science. King J, did you see them do that? All that pre-science and proto-science and all that stuff they do in our community, they didn't bring up one question about whether or not ancient Egypt practiced science or not. They didn't bring up one question whatsoever. It was terrible for them. Okay. I mean, King J, am I wrong? They didn't bring up one point to the only expert, PhD, who says that you got to be cautious about science prior to the modern period. They didn't bring up not one thing. Dr. Theophilo Benga, interestingly, Dr. Theophilo Benga definitely mentions more territories besides as Dr. Shekanta Diop. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to unpack some conventions. Like Nubia is a convention. It doesn't exist. Ta-Nehisi exists, right? We use a lot of conventions that are not actually real. And so I'm going to unpack those. And then I'm going to talk about Kush. I'm going to talk about some of the other places in the South, like Wawet, right? And I'm going to talk about people and polities. If you like, there's my Cash App. And Santana, I always appreciate you trying to get me lunch for my work, right? So I appreciate you. So there's my Cash App. Okay, so now I'm gonna get out of the chat and I'm going to it. So Old Kingdom Nubian ethnonyms in Egyptian texts and modern racial historiography, Weni, Harkhuf, and Nehesi. Why is Weni and Harkhuf important? Right? We're gonna find out. My abstract, which you don't see from a lot of these people on YouTube acting like they have some expertise, but they're really gatekeepers. They can't write. I can write and I can cite, right? Old Kingdom Autobiography, biographical inscriptions preserve detailed list of Nubian and Libyan ethnonyms, including Nehesi, right, or Nesu, Wawet, Urjet, Setu, Yam, and Temeho, right? Which the Ticino, right? And the Tamho should be in there too, but which records Egypt's interactions with southern and western populations. I get that from Preston, Litcham, etc. Modern Egyptology has often overlaid this vocabulary with broader archaeological labels such as A group, Kerma, Kushite, and Nubia, as well as racial categories like Negro and Black, thereby obscuring the differentiated political geography preserved in ancient sources. Okay, so A group is a convention. It doesn't exist. That's Egyptological talk. Kerma is another convention. Kushite, right, is another convention, right? And Nubia. Those are conventions, right? Now, there is etymology that makes some of this correct, but Nubia, for example, is not in the place of the gold cities. The gold cities are in Tawi civilization. So they take gold that is in the Egyptian regions and they paste it for the southerners. Kush or Cash is where it really comes from, becomes Kushite, right? And you know, King J, hoping that he could do some research on this, on the etymology of Kush. And I'll talk about that when I get to it. Focusing on the sixth dynasty autobiographies of Weni and Harkhuf, the royal letter of Pepi II, and later use of the name Nehesi, this paper catalogs the principal ethnonyms, compares how Weni and Harkhuf portray Southern people, and situates later racialized and deracializing readings of the Nehesi within the border of historiography of Egyptian Nubian studies. It further argues that most historically grounded methods is to privilege attested ancient designations over later umbrella categories and to distinguish carefully among toponyms, ethnonyms, and administrative labels. Egyptian ethnonyms for Nubians and name polities. Egyptians are the writers of this period, this age, and Egyptians thinking what they do sometimes is replace the names of indigenous populations further south with their naming, but most of the time try to keep some connections to those original elements. They just call those places their way. The Egyptian term Nehesu appears from at least the Old Kingdom onwards as a broad designation for Southerners, but the ancient evidence does not support treating it as a name of a single polity. So the Nehesh groups is not a single group of people, but a group of tribes, so to speak, chiefs, right? Chiefdoms. Nehesi functioned as an Egyptian exonym that could encompass inhabitants of Wawet, Kush, and adjacent regions, while Old Kingdom sources also preserve more specific name polities along the broader ethnonyms. Within the broader categories of Old Kingdom source name distinct entities such as Wawet, Urjet, Setu, Yam, and others, these names indicate a multipolity southern landscape rather than a timeless or homogeneous Nubian and modern catch-all terminology, which often erases the internal differentiations. This problem extends beyond the Old Kingdom. Historical usage shifts beyond the Old Kingdom. Historical usage shifts from Ta-Seti in the pre-dynastic and early dynastic period through Wawet in early Kush and Old and Middle Kingdom sources to the New Kingdom provincial use of Kush. So we have early forms and then we have later forms, but now they introduce Kush. And finally, the Napati and Meroic Kingdom of Kush as a genuine self-designation. The diachronic sequence shows why terminology must be periodized rather than flattened into a single regional label. And that's often what we do when we talk. We don't make it based on periods, we make it based on a flattened regional label. Okay. Okay, so Harwin says, let me get Harwin and King Jay are talking. King Jay reacts, I'm going to break down the morpheme Nubia. It's far more ancient than we think. Okay, be looking forward to that. Okay, they are talking. And what is going on over here? Reggie is like a mouth always talking ish to the ears and eyes because they cannot speak, always forgetting all three are important. Why the F are you on this channel? Why? You believe in James Strong. That's your Jesus. I think you just want to be noticed. If you have anything to say about the region, right, then that's fine. Notice I wasn't talking about him. So, all right. So so if it's flattened as often as we see in practice, let's kind of like unpack it, right? Are y'all with me? Right. Okay, because anything that I write and anything that I can cite, that I cite, you could take it to a university. Okay, right? You could test it, right, to see if it's wrong. Ta-Seti, Wawet, and Kush in a historical perspective. The broader southern background begins with Ta-Seti, the land of Bo, which I showed from another paper, often identified as the early organized polity in the region, later called Nubia. Archaeological evidence associated with the A group horizon in Lower Nubia, especially in Kustal, has been used to argue for an early complex kingdom whose iconography overlaps chronology with late Nakata, Upper Egypt. Ta-Seti, originally designated as an independent kingdom, but after conquest was repurposed as the name of the first gnome that we believe of Upper Egypt, which some people argue, centered on Elephantine Island. The other scholar that I talked about gave a rational, plausible reason that once it was conquered, the Egyptian groups of people allowed them to stay there, and some went to the west and some went further south. The semantic transformation illustrates a recurrent Egyptian practice preserving indigenous names while changing their political meanings under Egyptian administration. So that's what I had said earlier. They may have original names, but oftentimes we're looking at under Egyptian writing, which we use transliterations. So we are never looking at, we're never hearing the original names. We're just using our convention. But the ancient Egyptians, we know, renamed them based on their uh, uh, their schema. By the Old Kingdom, Egyptian texts distinguished Wawet, Kush, Yam, Urjet, and Setu as separate designations and groups of people. Wawet is generally associated with the Lower Nubia between the first and second cataracts, that's Wawet, while the early citations of Kush refers to a more southerly region and not yet to the later Napadan Meroic kingdom. So there's much more that we need to understand about. Remember, we have to look at periods and we have to look at areas. So the groups of the people that's in Wawet, which is the first and second cataract, right? Those groups are different than a group in between the furthest group, which is the Napadian Meroic kingdoms, which is in the Sudan. So there seems to be three layers. No, Moses is not my brother. He's not my brother, right? So no, he's not. Anybody that interrupts my presentation with ish that I wasn't even talking about is somebody that wants to be noticed. So what I'm trying to get to now is Weni's autobiography. How do we know? What do we know about these groups of people? We know them by two biographies of ancient Egyptians on expeditions going down to the south, right? And into the desert. We know it by a general by the name of Weni, and we know it by another administrator named Harkhuf. So let's see what's going on with Weni. Weni, an official of the 6th dynasty, left an autobiographical inscription at Abju describing service under Teti, one of the pyramid builder kings, pyramid text kings, Teti, Pepi I, and Minaret. In his account of his major campaigns, he stated that the king raised an army from Upper and Lower Egypt and also from multiple named southern and western groups. One of the most cited English translations renders the passage as follows: the army was levied among the Urtet Negroes, that's the Europeans writing, the Mazo Negroes, the Yam Negroes among the Wawet Negroes, among the Kau Negroes in the land of Tamay. Now, when they say Negroes, the word that they're actually replacing is the Nehes. So it was the Nehes, it was the Mazo, it was the Urjet, Nehes. So we can see in Weni's biography, there are different Nehes groups. Breasted, being who he is the one who put in the Negroes. But if you read the Meta-Neter, it says Nehes. The historical value of the lines not only listing the names of Irjet, the Mazoid, the Medjay, the Yam, the Wawet, the Kaul, and the Temeh, right? But also in the way of older translations racializes them to the term Negroes, right? So I cited Jonathan Owens there, right? Because Jonathan Owens was one of the first people who really wanted to talk about this. So Brother Reggie citing Jonathan Owens. What else do I want to say about these groups? Oh, the other thing I want to do is I want to throw a shot. The Temeh groups, right, is what formerly Jabari called the white man, the Tamahu, but these are listed as groups under the Nehesh groups. So the Tameh or the Tamahu groups is actually a southern population having nothing to do with what Jabari said that they was the white man, right? That was just a misreading. What does the chat say? I'll put it in the chat for you to see. And this one over here. Proof. Nubia is an indigenous Greek Nube, right? For Noba, nomads, not in Kemet scripts. Kemet used Ta-Seti Wawet. Nubia is a 3rd BC foreign tag. That's correct. Brother La, okay. That's off this stuff. Okay. So Jabari, professor, called the Tamahu, the Temeh, the white man, right? And he did that for a long time until I decided that I wanted to put it to a damn end. But that's why I'm doing this paper. Later translations and commentators increasingly correspond this tendency by rendering these groups instead as Nubians or Nehesu, and that translation history matters because it shapes the perceived relationships between ancient ethnonyms and modern racial categories, which I'm trying to work through. What the inscription itself shows is that the Egyptian state practice recognized multiple southern groups and drew on them as military auxiliaries within a broader imperial framework. That's what Breasted said. Weni further reports that the chief of Urtret, Wawet, Yam, and Nemezio, right, and hauled Asia woods from Wawet for royal boats, right? So this is what we get from them, that these chiefs hauled in a source of wood, not in Egypt per se, right, for royal boats. And that we also find, if we look at the rock inscriptions, we also find that the so-called Nubian groups, the Nehesh groups that I'm talking about, unflattened, these people actually were great shipbuilders, right? Because they had the material to be shipbuilders, whereas the ancient people of Egypt did not have the resources to do so and had to import it. Let's look at Harkhuf. The autobiography of Harkhuf, preserved in his tomb at Kabet el Hawa, offers a complementary 6th dynasty perspective. Harkhuf served under Menre and Pepi II, and his inscription records expeditions to Yam for exploration, diplomacy, and exchange. He states that the King Menre sent him to Yam in order to explore a road to this country, that he completed the journey in 7 months, and that he returned with all kinds of gifts. Harkhuf also said that he returned by way of the Urju, the Serju, and the Wawet, demonstrating that they were not interchangeable labels, but distinct regions within the Egyptian understanding of the South. What I'm trying to get to is that before we knew of Kush, right? We knew of these groups of people that would be absorbed into a term called Kush. Do you understand that? Let me just check. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm unflattening. Before the word that we call Cash or Kush, what we know is these Nahesh groups that would later disappear and be under the term of Kush. Do you understand that? Thanks, Coach. The terms in Harkhuf and Harkhuf and Weni will disappear. So what we know now, what we would know is that when we're looking at this term called cash, it's an absorbed word of these groups of people that we have a record of. So Kush didn't pop out of nowhere. And I talked to King Jay and Harwin and others about what they think of the word Kush. And when I get to the point, I'll tell you what I think of it. Right? Great. I don't know how else anybody would do this without trying to do it slow. I don't know, but what I am doing is, for the first time on this channel, unpacking the South, right? Smash Rockwell again, Jonathan Owens did an early job, and he did it maybe 10 years ago, right? Maybe 10 years ago, he did it. I'm doing it in a different way, showing how to unpack it. Okay, so now, we know Harkhuf from a preserved Pepi famous letter regarding a pygmy, which the ancient Egyptian word for it is ding, usually rendered from the term ding, right? Which I said it before I read it. In this episode, the king celebrates Harkhuf's return with a dancing dwarf of the god. So from the southern parts, the ding was the dancing dwarf of the god, or like Bess. So they're talking about other groups of people, other African groups of people that they encountered. And one of the groups that they encountered was the smaller dwarf-like groups of people, which they said did the dances of the god. And we know that that was deified in the Neter Bess. Okay, so let's look at Weni and Harkhuf compared. Weni and Harkhuf presents overlapping but distinct models of Egyptian interaction with the southern people. Weni foregrounds recruitment, military use, labor, extraction, and provisioning of royal projects, where Harkhuf foregrounds exploration, trade, diplomacy, caravan management, and negotiate movement of goods and persons through named southern territories. Taken together, these inscriptions demonstrate that Old Kingdom Egypt already recognized a plural southern landscape structured by multiple people, chiefs, and routes. They therefore provided strong evidence against retrojecting a single timeless southern category into Old Kingdom evidence, meaning they're not thinking like we are taught about Nubia. They see different polities, different usage, different resources, different roots, but most important, different cultures and different peoples in the South. And that's one of the things that we should actually, hopefully after this, we can go out of Kemet and go into the South with a more educated thinking. Kerma, Medjay, and the problems of conflation. Later historical periods complicate modern terminology even further. Kerma is a major case of conflation because expressions such as Nubian Kerma or the Nubian kingdom of Kush merge a modern regional label and archaeological site name and later political designation into a misleading compound. So when we use words like Kerma and Medjay, right, again, it's flattened. Middle Kingdom sources do not systematically call the Kerma polity Kush in the later New Kingdom sense. In the indigenous name of the Kerma kingdoms remains unknown, right? But the term Kerma itself is a modern Arabic toponym for the archaeological site, which is another reason not to equate it. It casually with Kush across all periods, right? We can't equate it to Kush across all periods. And that the word Kerma is a Arabic toponym, right? So then what is it, right? So when we use these words, we got to understand that some of these are conventions, right? The same caution applies to Medjay. In the Middle Kingdom text, Medjay refers to a group associated with the eastern desert between the Nile and the Red Sea, while in the New Kingdom term can designate an elite paramilitary force, police force, and desert scouts in Egyptian service. Regardless of the exact ethnic origin, equating Medjay directly with Pan-grave culture or with generic Nubian auxiliaries oversimplifies a more fluid historical situation. So again, you could go to Smash Rockwell's channel, and he talks a lot, and King Jay's over there and several other people over there. They talk a lot about the Medjay, but the Medjay changes meaning and in usage over various Egyptian periods. So we can't flatten the periods. We got to look at it. But in the earliest part, the Medjay is part of the Nehesh groups between Harkhuf and Weni. And then later in the Middle Egyptian time period, they become an elite police force or so-called police force. Mentuhotep II, Buhan, and New Kingdom administration. Let me stop and see what the chat is saying. See, it's problems like this. I'm unpacking. This dude is just he doesn't comprehend anything that I'm saying. I am not talking about Nubian. Nubian is a flattened term, right? At best, it's Nepatan civilization, right? But you want to use that word over and over and over again. It's foreign to the culture. It's foreign to what I'm talking about, right? And it shows that you can't comprehend. I am not going to entertain you, but I will bring you up to show that you do not comprehend what I'm talking about. So you want me to use that word, but I am showing that that I'm trying to unflatten the word to the actual peoples, right? Which you don't know about. So that's the problem with ignorant people coming out of not all Christians, but because there are groups of Christians that are in the region in Africa, Coptics, right? And we can look at their works and see what they say. I'm talking about the lobotomized King James Version super Negroes that only want to maintain old terminology so it helps them with their book, right? It helps them with their book, right? Okay, so let's go. So let's talk about Buhin. Now, Buhin is an area where there's a series of forts, and it is deep in the south. Buhin provides an especially useful example of how frontier administration developed it, functioned as an old kingdom colonial and copper working site, and later became a major Middle Kingdom fortress dominating the Second Cataract region, serving as both a military stronghold and an industrial node for resource extraction and shipment north. So there, in the Middle Kingdom, this civilization or culture, in the South was so threatening that the people of Tawi civilization had to build a series of huge forts to control these groups of people from dominating at that time. Later, those same groups or confederations of those groups will unify, and they will succeed, and they will cross that, and they will take over Egypt, and that is where you have what you call the black, what they want to call at that time the Black Pharaohs. They don't want to call them the Black Pharaohs any other time but that time. But the fact of the matter is that a series of forts needed to be constructed in the Middle Kingdom because these groups of people were so strong, and so Tawi civilization had to block it. Okay, so let's talk about Napata, Meroe, Kush, and self-designations. The Napata and Meroe kingdom is best called Kush because that's what the polity's own designation in royal inscriptions and external references. It's really not Kush, it's really Cass. And I'm going to tell you what I think, and King Jay is going to tell me what he thinks, and maybe Harwen, about what that name really is. After the weakening of Egyptian control and independent kingdoms emerged in what they are calling, I'm calling it Upper Ta-Seti, right? Centrally initiated a Napatian, and this kingdom explicitly is identified as Cash rather than Nubia. So now we know that the ancient Egyptians identified this group in this area as Cash. This matters because modern scholarship often speaks of Nubian pharaohs or Nubian Kush formulations that depart from ancient usage. Not merely terminological, the objection is not merely terminological preference, calling the Napata Meroic state as Nubia, calling the Napatian Meroic state Nubian can obscure its specific historical identity and collapse it into a generalized, again, timeless, flattened southern category. A more careful practice, therefore, treats so-called word Nubia as a qualified modern geographical term or a label for modern Nubian ethno-linguistic communities, while designating ancient state formations wherever possible by their attested names as Cash, Wawet, or Kerma kingdoms, right? Nehesi, Du Bois, Budge, and Litcham. The etymon Nehesi also appears as a personal name, which I mentioned as a king of the Hyksos, including the case of the second intermediate ruler, commonly called King Nehesi, and New Kingdom official under Hatshepsut, right? These cases show how the etymon moved beyond broad classifications into onomastics while retaining association with the southern origin. Jonathan Owens. In the Negro, 1915, Du Bois treated such material as evidence for a black African rulership in Egypt, famously describing Nehesi as a full-blooded Negro pharaoh. And this was early, this in 1915, when they weren't even talking much about this. That interpretation stands in dialogue with the older translation tradition that labeled the peoples in Weni's inscriptions Negroes, showing how racial categories entered modern readings of ancient etymons. Wallace Budge, by contrast, argued a history of Ethiopia, Nubia, and Abyssinia for strong civilizational connection linking Egypt with lands to the south and southwest, Budge exemplifies an older Africanist tendency that foregrounded Southern influence on Egypt, but still worked within the terminology of his era. Miriam Licham represents a sharply different position. She rejected Negro Nubian formulations and insisted that early Nubians were not black. People don't know that. A view that directly opposes both the Boyce readings of Nahesi and the older racialized translations of Weni. These disagreements reveal how translation, race, and terminology shape historical interpretation. So we have to look into Miriam Licham's work as she does with Breasted and Reisner and Petrie does, and we just have to note that she's done a lot of great work, but we have to note that. Toward a correctional framework. Let me stop, take a sip for a second. Okay, so before I go on, I want to ask the chat. Kush has become caste has become a convention from caste to Kush, and sometimes it's even conflated with the middle. How can I say the Near East, right? With Kish, right? Where do you think that the word comes from? You know, you hear Hesi Kush, Hesi Cash, the wretched Kush, wretched Cash. Where do you think? What might you think it comes from? I'm not so sure, but I have a good idea. What do you think? Oh, let me put in my Cash App. Oh, I forgot about that. Maybe I can get something. Well, I can check my phone to see. Give me a second. So while I'm doing that, I want to thank. So who gave me a Dead Blacks? Thank you so much. Nana Asadu, thank you so much. Let me put my Cash App up. Cash App. Wait, 1 second. So, and I want your comments about the subject. I don't want your comments about your silly religion or anything like that. Keep that to yourself. Yeah. Don't try to mix in your religion with this unless it applies. I will hear anything from religion if it applies. But if you just want to advertise your damn religion, this is not the show for you. If you want to learn, fine. But if you want to advertise your religion, I'm not interested in you. You'll never write anything. You'll never get anything published. You're definitely not peer reviewed, right? You can write an Amazon book all you want, but it won't be in WorldCat, right? It won't be in a library, right? So keep your religious stuff to yourselves. Again, most of you people who do stuff like Moses does can't write. He can have slides of other people regurgitation information. He can't write. So that way he will never be published. If he does write a book, it's regurgitation, no real primary work, no good secondary work. So what we have from him is a bunch of slides. A lot of other people who are not as bad but bad, or they are Bible centric. They only care about what the Bible says about other groups, and then they make them Hamites while they're Shemites based on their category. Again, nobody in academia will take them seriously, right? So we're dealing with missionaries and propagandists, but not academics, right? None of them are academic, not on this channel. Let me just check. Let me see. I mean, there are people who say some interesting things that are not as bad, but then they mess it up. Yara is not that bad, but he's bad because he can't stick to academia. He crosses the line, right? Zion Lex, he wants to make everything around his Hebrew world, even if he enters the space of Egypt and the South, it's still within his framework of Hebrew studies. It's not outside of it. Who else? Most of the rest of them are just Bible regurgitators, right? Coming into our world. We don't come into their world. You never see Brother Reggie, for the most part, ever enter their spaces. Why? Because I'm not interested in it. Because I don't see any good academic work there, right? Why do they come over here? Okay. So my question, getting back to my question, Harwin, King J, anybody else that studies the subject, where do you think the etymology of cash comes from? That's what I want to ask before I go on. Hmm. So, when you say N25, are you talking about a classifier, a determinative, a Gardner code? Okay. I agree with King J. I think that the origin of cash is connected to the word kasut as a hill country, and that the ancient Egyptians shortened it to a people geographical term. So when we say Kush, we're talking about a particular region, I think, of frontiers or hill countries that come from the word Kasut. And they are just saying these groups of people in this hill country. I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but that's where I'm leading to, because I don't see any other designation, and that the Kasut is often in the determinative for when they talk about cash. What is this? What is Gambino Green Thumb says? The specificity, by calling them Kushites, your opponent is doing exactly what Mabry's paper warns against, erasing the specific names of the people, right, to fit a narrative. That's absolutely right. Right. until the people of these people will be absorbed later into a grouping that the ancient Egyptians, because these people may no longer exist, these people may later become groups of people that we see, um, the Noor, the Dinka, right? Those groups, they may in a later time period reemerge as those groups that haven't completely forgotten their earlier cultural, so they may reemerge, the Noor, the Dinka, and some of the other southern population groups. They will probably reemerge, but for the purposes of the uh, people of the two lands, Tawi or Shemai Tawi, they collapsed them because they didn't have that much knowledge of those groups. Then later, Hatshepsut, of course, Hatshepsut uh, and later Tutmos, they go to Jebel Barkal. Then their world gets completely flipped over because then they realize that their nature, Emin or Amin, right, that may have been his birthplace, right? And so then they revisit their own ancient history that they had forgotten before the land was bordered, right? Okay. Uh, there you go. All right. So we went over that. So I think I'm almost finished. Toward a corrective framework, a more historically grounded framework begins by privileging attested ancient names whenever the sources preserve them. For the Napatan Meroic kingdom, that means caste. For the Middle Kingdom polity centered at Kerma, Kerma kingdom is preferably to Nubian Kush, and for older kingdoms, one should speak of Wawat, Yam, Irjet, Setu, and related terms where the description allows, even though we're going to have to struggle and do more research on what is called Kerma Kingdom. Modern constructs such as Nubia, Lower Nubia, and Upper Nubia should therefore be used consciously and explicitly as scholar conventions rather than as a timeless category. Scholars must also respect diachronic change, such Kush in Old Kingdom text, Kush in the New Kingdom province, and Kush in the self-designation of the Napatan Meroic kingdoms, or more historical related but not identical reference. Finally, toponyms, ethonyms, and administrative labels should not be collapsed into one another. Ta-Seti, Wawet, Cash can function differently depending on periods and context, while Nehesi and Medjay should not be essentialized into fixed ethnic categories extending unchanged over millennia. Before I conclude, what I did not put in here is I did not discuss sa.neter and punt. Because these are further frontiers. And I think that when we talk about punt, punt is a word that probably is indigenous to those groups of people. And the Egyptians, when they met them and traded with them, they took that name. So it seems to be an indigenous, but it does not conflict with the terms Kush. They're separated. So I did not deal with sa.neter either, the land of the Neters, which is associated with Puant, because there is already a separation there is already a separation. So that's why I did not deal with it in this paper. So let me conclude. Weni and Harkhuf provide unusually rich Old Kingdom evidence for uh, ancient Egyptian knowledge of a differentiated southern world. Their inscriptions name polities, routes, chiefs, labor systems, exchange partners, and transportation networks, showing that Egyptian interaction with the South operated through multiple distinct groups rather than one group, a flattened group. When read alongside the broader chronological and historical graphical frameworks developed in Nubian studies, these inscriptions become more significant. They illustrate in concrete form that larger historical principles that blanket terms such as Nubia can obscure more than they clarify when they are projected backwards onto ancient evidence without qualification. The most rigorous approach, therefore, is neither to abandon modern terminology entirely nor to retain it uncritically. It is to use unattested ancient names whenever possible, distinguish exonyms from self designations, recognize semantic changes across time, and remain alert to the racial and colonial frameworks that have shaped modern readings of Nehesi, Wawat, Kerma, Kush, and related terms. I could have done a better job of talking more about Wawet over periods of time, but I didn't want to make this too long. Um, and but we have an idea of the peoples in that particular region, which I think I have accomplished. So let me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the line. Uh, Mr. Moses, this is sa.neter's channel. It is. It's Brother Reggie's show. I don't like what you've been saying, right? Um, because it's off topic, right? Brother La, what's Brother La say? So with further ado, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second, and I am going to invite the audience. And well, before I do that, uh, how many people press one if you think the show is useful? Press one if you think the show was useful in trying to unpack and try to give guidance as to when we should use the names. We should not forget the names, but where should we put those names in context? And press one if you like talking about something other than in Africa, other than directly talking about Egypt, as if ancient Egypt, Tawi civilization, is the only civilization that existed. Do you want us on this channel to talk about other classical civilizations that we know of that we can talk about besides ancient Egypt, right? Um, and because if we don't, we become Egypt centric, and we become blinded, and we actually become ignorant of cousins and brothers and sisters of that we should look at. In later time periods, you find a group of people called the Nube, right? The Nobe people, right? And you find that those groups of people by Dr. Solange Ashby, uh, recording of what King Azana called them when the red and the black, right? In those terms, the red and the black people. Um, Interesting. In Nile Valley, you have the red, the black, the white, and the sob for cattle, right? So we don't know if that's an extension of cattle culture or is a self-designation based on particular customs. But another show that I was on yesterday, the day before, I was talking about uh, what I call a black reality. Uh, that we have this problem of flattening Africa by calling cultures and civilizations black by modern Western standard when they didn't even revere necessarily colors. So I don't think that, believe it or not, all civilizations or cultures, I could call, even in Africa, black cultures. I'm not calling them by their skin color. I'm looking in their culture to see if they made themselves akin to any context of blackness. Um, it could be skin designation, but that's not to me the biggest thing, because I think that Kim itself has more to do with. Oh, sorry, Kim. Let me put myself on the screen. I don't know where. Sorry, I'm just talking. Where am I? Oh, I don't know why I can't come on the screen. Uh, I can't. Let me find out why I can't come on the screen. Oh, there I go. So I don't think Kim is just a color designation. Kim is sacred black, relating to a number of things, nouns, proper nouns, uh, in that culture that makes it a black reality. I think that the Dogon people have a black reality. I think the Akan people have a black reality. I think the Yoruba people have a black reality. I don't think that uh, all cultures that we're calling black, right, have a black reality. I think we're superimposing that on, and that is just my thinking, because I would look into a culture to assess. A lot of the cultures have a black reality, though, because of the cattle culture, because they separated cattle because it was easy to do, to mark your type of cattle. So there would be, again, the black cattle, it would be the white cattle, it would be the sob cattle, it would be the red cattle, right? And then there might be other cultural things like deities, or yeah, uh, totems, sometimes dress. Some people adorn themselves with red ochre, and others with charcoal, and others with white powder, right? There's people, I was talking to Jetta Monk, I think, today, earlier, and he was talking about the white people in South Africa. I'm not talking about the European white people. I'm talking about a group of people who adorn themselves with like white powder, right? And so my thinking in reality comes from cultural practices rather than the European calling us something. So we can call ourselves in Africa white, black, red, right? Based on our own cultural practices without having anything to do with the Europeans. And so I was definitely having a conversation on uh, Carnivorous Podcast and TMI about that. And uh, we began that conversation, but that is my thinking. And we had a good conversation, no insults and no disrespect between, Haskell and the truest and myself. And these are the type of kind of conversations that you can write papers on, that you could do great presentations on, that you could talk to experts on, rather than this recycled Bible BS that we often do on this channel. And we do that, sa.neter does it to wake the people up and show the contradictions. I just think it goes too far. I think it becomes a nesting place for rats who, we don't go to their channel to discuss that culture. Like, I know about the church fathers. right? I only use that when I have to talk to them on our channels, right? Their Bible writers was not God, it was the church fathers, right? And the Septuagint, right, was in the hands of the Greeks. And the first Septuagint was really only the 5 books of Moses. And then they rewrote it and expanded it. And then they changed it. But that's not that has nothing to do with our culture, right? It intersects with cultures like the Coptic culture, but we didn't know any of that stuff until enslavement. Anyway, it just boggles my mind how much slavery affects us. But anyway, that we want to be fantasy people who God, in my thinking, am I wrong? God gave up on the Israelites. Indigenous black man. What did he say? You did use my teachings. Man, indigenous black man. Look, at least I get to present my ideas. Sometimes you think my ideas are your ideas, but I write inside. I tell you, a lot of my ideas don't come from Brother Reggie. It comes from what I read and what I cite. So if you cited those people, see, that's the difference. A lot of my writing comes from things that I read and I cited. I have some original ideas, but I really try to get a grasp of other people's ideas and to see what they're saying because a lot of them know much more than me. So, indigenous black men, I would say to you is if you are saying that my ideas are your ideas, I'm saying indigenous. I probably read it in a book, and on this topic, I probably showed it to him. So I put out the link. Anybody want to come on? Tomorrow, what's going on tomorrow while we're doing this? Tomorrow, sa.neter is going to be interviewing. Where is she? He has a big interview that he was going to do today, but he is going to do it tomorrow. Zaza Ali, but where is it? And I'll play some music until some people come up. Give me a second. Where is Zaza Ali? I just saw it. And what we're trying to do is get more sisters on the platform, right? So wow, we have Issa Queen doing a really good job. Yesterday we had Mr. Cole, and we had another sister, I think Tracy, on, and on the channel, there is Nepal, and there are a number of Harwin. Great. So that's what's happening tomorrow. One-on-one interview with Zaza Ali and sa.neter. And sa.neter looking dapper. Sa.neter looking dapper. Look at him. He looking dapper, boy, huh? That's a nice thumbnail. And Zaza Ali looking beautiful. And so he's going to be engaging us. So we want more sisters to come on this platform. Okay, so I have coming to the stage. I'll take this off. Great. Take me off. Let me just move this to see if I get the big screen. And great. Hey, gentlemen, how are y'all doing? What's happening?
How you doing, Elder?
I'm just Brother Reggie. I'm just your brother today. So I'm just your brother. I am shoot. But how y'all doing and what's going on?
I'm doing good. I enjoyed the presentation.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Any any points? Anything that I think you think I have to go a little bit further on? Anything that you want to ask me about now?
I had one question about your presentation.
Uh-huh.
What was I gonna ask? About the... I was watching your presentation that you did on Smash's channel from like 4 years ago or whatever, when you were going over like the complex thought that was originating into Nubia, and then that like slid into Egypt. Okay. Now when we're going through that, would you say that some of those bowmen on the illustrations that had the ostrich feather, would you think those are early signs of Medjay, or do you think that's like a Ta-Seti origin for the feathers?
Well, we see a lot of the feather use is based on the animals. So the animals were first in the Green Sahara. Well, first coming really from Southern Africa, and then up. But during a large period, they were around the Green Sahara, and then the parts where those animals would exist. And a lot of that is, believe it or not, is in what became the Western Desert, because a lot of the animals left or didn't spend much time in the Egypt, which is at a large time it was swampy and uninhabitable, right? For animals. So these animals, these Sahara animals, would be in the areas in which they could thrive. So I don't think that I think that many of the concepts came into Egypt from ancestral knowledge rather than they in fact were. The elephant was there, he left. The leopard was there, he left, right? The lion was there. They go into where savannas are, right? Savannas are. These are more savanna animals. And as Egypt became what it became, what we have is peoples in those areas, like both the Chinu and the Tamhu, they have feathers. They have feathers. And so a lot of it has to do with climate and animals, and the animals have to be there for them. So the ostrich is really not in Egypt. The ostrich finds its way in southern parts. So I hope that helps.
All right, thank you for that.
If it makes sense.
All great points, Reggie. Yes. All great points.
Yeah. Only if it seems to have some plausibility. But a lot of what we know about ancient Egypt is absorbing earlier populations. So a lot of some of the deities, or because they are I don't want to say deities, but I say neters. They're real and they're literal, right? They have principal components as adjectives, but in their belief systems, they live and die. They live and they die. I can't tell you how many ancient so-called Egyptian deities died. They died. And were buried, right? Not like the Comedics like to present them. As if they're just principles. No, they're a little bit more than principles.
Great point, Reggie. Great point.
They die. They literally go to sleep. They get killed, right? They die. So what they want to do is New Age stuff, and then they think they can get away with it by disrespecting African culture and African beliefs. And I don't care how many times they said they went there or whatever the case. The text says what they believed in, and I have to respect what they believed in, and sometimes what they said that they didn't believe in. if you can look at the Harper's hymn, they clowned Osiris. They called them the weary Osiris, like useless, right? They say live life and be merry. That's where it comes from the Harper's hymns, right? The Harper hymns. So you got to be careful with your favorite comedic person. There are some that are good. I learned from Infodici. I could talk to, and we can agree to disagree, right? We can agree to disagree. But then there's some of them who are as bad as Hebrews, right?
That's real talk.
Yeah. Okay. You can ask me any more questions, Immortal Dragon. But anybody else want to say anything?
I got one more thing with your permission to be a pseudo real quick on this Narmer palette thing.
Yeah.
Now when on the they say it's the backside when he's wearing the red crown and he has the 4 standards.
Yeah, we can pull it up. Go ahead, Clark.
Yeah.
Set it up. Set it up. I'll get the picture. Set it up. Set up the whole piece.
Yeah. So the 3 standards, obviously, we got 2 herus or 2 falcons, a set animal, and then the final one, right? That's allegedly a placenta-looking thing, right?
Okay.
Right, I'm gonna be super pseudo now.
No, you're not. You're actually not. So these are there's a lot of other stuff going on. So let me put it up so you can really go in.
Yeah.
Right. So let me share my screen. Let you really go in. You ain't finished yet. You just started, boy, huh? As long as we don't start talking about no damn helicopters. That
No.
We're not doing.
My pseudo thing is a real animal figure on that last standard.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it's up.
Yeah, let me full screen your thing. Okay, cool. So that very last one that everyone's saying is a placenta thing.
Wait, which one? This
4th one on the left. Yep, that very far one.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. My pseudo mindset yesterday when I was at work. To me, that wasn't making
pseudo. I know a pseudo. Usually, the pseudos are the people who call other people pseudos. So that's the first thing. If you're calling other people pseudos, you're probably the pseudo. I'm frozen, right?
And
right, you know who I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I got you. My animal depiction that runs through my mind was that might be a symbol of a pangolin, which is the pseudo part, instead of like a placenta thing. But I haven't had enough time to look it up yet. But I've been going through, and there's a few pangolins that reach all the way into East Africa. And before the drying, they probably had enough room to travel a little farther north. Or this tribe specifically is south in Ta-Seti, hopefully, like around that region. But I'm still looking up images of like that older stuff.
The reason why they believe that it's the placenta is because in this culture and surrounding cultures, the king's placenta is important. It's buried, right? And it's a very important part of who they are, and it's usually called the king's placenta. And so it's a symbolic concept. And so you have the 2 falcons, which I believe one is male and one is female. Then you have the kind of a fox and his shelter, right? And these are totems, possibly from different cities, because they have major gods and minor gods, right? And so this seems to be a unification of different ethnic groups. And this side over here, believe it or not, there's a tradition, you're not going to like this, but of headhunting. And and this is the results of this. So
we see it. The heads is between the feet.
Yes.
I'm a fan of villains, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this is righteous. This is hands, heads, penises,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So let me pose a question to brother Reggie. Is this symbolic, or did this actually happen?
This is
That's always been my question, because sometimes these things are symbolic and they didn't really happen in that way.
no. I think this is a, how can I say, a story. I think it's very real about their enemies and groups of people that uh, uh, how can I say,
They got their
confederation.
heads cut off.
Oh yeah, no. There's if you look up ancient Egyptian and head hunters, there are head hunting groups. See, you got to remember this is an early stage. The gnomes are not unified. They're they're just being formed, and the enemies at this particular time period. Um, later it becomes smashing the noses, and that's in ancient Egyptian culture. So ancient Egyptian has a number of fringe types of cultures, right? And at this time period, uh, people getting their heads lopped off and their enemies. And you can look up what I'm saying, but there you go. So what else is going on?
Well, another question: when will this paper or book be released? Because that's what I'm waiting on. Because it's good work, and I'm so anxious when you actually release it to the people, so others can be able to grab a hold of it and review it. That's
Well,
what I'm
I
concerned.
did a show on King's Monologue um, because Camdy Verse was talking in King's Monologue about these conventions and stuff, and so he recommended me, and so I did it for King's Monologue, and this is my second major presentation, and I have a few other things I want to put in it, and so when I do a show like this, I'm always looking to see what's missing, uh, so or what I should think about or change. So the question is, you at least have it here. You can read on the ancient Nubian encyclopedia, um, but it doesn't necessarily focus on the conventions of Egypt and Nubia. It will talk specifically about Nubia, and I recommend Maria Gatto. I recommend Stan Hendricks, Stuart Tyson Smith, uh, uh, Dr. Vanessa Davies, a number of there are a number of associations. Dr. Ashby. Um, there are a number of young people now who have pretty much moved on and see that this place in the South is fruitful for understanding Africa. That the so-called Egypt is run by the Egyptian government. It's Egypt centric for tourism, and they in their particular practices separate the ancient culture, and they don't want to look at the southern population as having anything to do with uh, their Disney World.
Yeah, but how can they say that when some of them still say that these are indigenous people, but they had nothing to do with the founding of Kemet? That doesn't make sense. You can't say they're indigenous and then say all of a sudden now they had nothing to do with the founding of the culture. They were different people who came in and they were invaders. Just like people try to say Norma was an invader and a foreigner, but that can never be true. They didn't
They
come from a foreign country.
Jose, when you get a chance to go, they have both their museums have very limited work on Nubia. Um, there's just a conference, a recent conference that Jeddah Monk went to on Nubia, which was one of the newest, greatest exhibitions on um, on the subject. And I will do another presentation. I think I'll talk about that because museums and libraries are now leading the charge, uh, and 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 so it makes what is coming out of Egypt old and irrelevant and duplicative. So a lot of universities now, museums, libraries are leading the charge. Conferences are leading the charge. Uh, Let me just tell Morpheus 1 second. Hey Morpheus, I'm on a show. Yeah, I've been on the show for about 2 hours. All right. Okay. Peace. Black News 102.
But you cleared up a lot for me with Harkhuf and Weni, because I was reading it and I was kind of, I needed a little bit more clarification on it because it seemed like there was a lot kind of broken up and missing. So thank you for clarifying a little bit of that, because I actually read both of the texts.
Yeah, and you can the
I got it from the TLA though.
That's fine. The important thing is to kind of compare them, what their agendas were, and what they noticed about the Southerners and the people in the West, right? Because the people of Yam seem to be the later version of the people of Not the Playa, the people of Yam, right? And then, of course, we have Mentuhotep going to Chad, as far as Chad, and there's an inscription. And then we have the Gift Kabir, and then we have a whole another culture over there, the Gobero culture, and we have the pottery. And there was a new paper that came out, a great paper on the looking at the South, uh, Central, and West Africa, which made Abdul Jedamant gave me that paper. Um, Not a paper; it's a whole book. It's I don't know, it's about 500 pages. I mean, something like that. So there's a lot more to do. The question is, do y'all want to stay Egypt centric because it gives you some superpowers, or do you want to look at comparative African cultures? So I have Herwin on. Herwin, man, how you doing, man?
Doing good, brother Reggie. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Proud of you, man. Proud of you putting some points front and center, but unfortunately doing it in a way which the community likes, which is really argumentative. But I think that you was forced to be argumentative.
Oh, what? Which video you talking about?
Dealing with Ankh.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Mm-hmm.
He, he don't know too much about Egypt, but I don't even want to talk about him. But I appreciate you.
Yeah, I really don't want to talk to him.
I think you did a good job, man. This presentation right here. You did hear some good points, some things that I really appreciate. Really appreciate. Really
Okay,
appreciate you kicking it off with the A group, and then later on down you married it into when you mentioned the Blessed Mountain, right? And the
yeah.
Kushites talk about their homeland. That's very good. You said you didn't go into Punt. I understand why you didn't, but and I think you're right about that as far as what you said about the origin of that morpheme, that word, right? I think
Yes, Kasut to Cash, shortened version of Kasut, right?
oh yeah, about cash, but I mean, I'm gonna get on cash in a minute. But the word Punt,
Yeah, well, it's
I
a real
think,
word.
yeah, that's a real word. I think that's you see the word in Somali for horn.
hmm
Yeah, it's real.
So,
I appreciate that. I appreciate you mentioning you touched on King Izana shortly, but it was sweet. It was short, but it was sweet when you mentioned the Nubia and
mhm.
the cash thing. Yeah, I agree with that. The cash term I think come from Southern dialects, and King J, we both in the chat was talking back and forth about that. The mountain determinative, and I think you're right about the mountainous word. I think that's all on point, man.
Yeah, it's just research points. We won't know until we get an inscription hard because at best we can get something from Moetic when that's better deciphered and we can find some more information about maybe about their contacts if we can find something, because they would be the groups of people that would contact them first, really.
Mm.
Those populations in the South, because they had actual trade, or we could find something in on the other side of the Red Sea that might help us. It could be rock art. It could be, but so there's much more. But when people are so you're Egyptian centric, they're not looking for any of that. Um, Ancient Egypt.
I
They're not
agree.
looking for it.
When you
So
mention Maria Gatto, oh man, she's right on point with your point. I think they get Egypt centric because they don't really think that those things are tied into when you were just talking to the brother right here about the Green Sahara and the South. You was using the animals to explain how that is. That's all on point. You see
yeah,
bears with the plum feathers of the ostrich feather. You see Amen with the ostrich feathers, which goes right back to the Jabir Barkel and the Holy Mountain, the Pure Mountain. All that ideology, all that's connected.
yeah, and it's layers, and so we can't flatten it. It requires first wanting to look at it, and then depending on what you read and how you read it and the tools that you have to read.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this you can just go to Punt and you can see what I was talking about is referred as Ta-Neter, right? The
Yep.
land
Yep.
of gods, and you can see this area right here, right? This area right here across the Red Sea, right?
You're right.
Um, and these groups of people move into this early part of here. So
That's
you
right.
can have you have arrowheads and stuff from earlier time periods into this area right here, right?
That's right.
But this area suffers what Egypt suffers for its climate. At one point, this area was green, and then it becomes desert really quickly. But this group, this influence right here, and then there's other groups, the Sabian culture,
I
right?
was just about to say that the oldest
Mhm.
Sabian script is in Ethiopia. Scholars like to try to act like that was an Arabian thing originally, but you just touched on it.
Right, but it's both sides. So some of these civilizations are on both sides because they know how to navigate this. So it's like uh,
Indeed.
yeah, so it's on both sides. So the Sabian culture, and then the Sabian culture goes into the early Arabic culture, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Then later on the Batian and all that, but yeah,
yeah, but looking to hear you present, so I can learn. I mean, I learn a lot from uh, uh, listening to young scholars and their ideas without calling them names, like without thinking I'm so right. But I will challenge something if I think that it's going a little bit too far. I would challenge it. But usually it's a pseudo that calls somebody else pseudo to hide who they in fact are,
for
right?
sure. Usually the
And
people using the term pseudo are the ones that are pseudo.
then people get outdated because it's it's the reach of what they know that is useful. Like at some point knowledge has to be useful, right? And you get to some people get to a point where they're not useful. So arguing these things about who has science, that one group of people absolutely did not have science, but the Europeans had science, is absolutely bananas.
Ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can go into Neoplatonism and where all that come from.
And
It's
I'm
just
looking for y'all. Y'all have good. It's a bunch of you. You have good. You have really good ideas, and I think that look, I can be challenged, but I put myself usually in a way not to kind of have to deal with nuances. Nuances, as long as I don't cross the line. Now I can make a mistake, and you can ask me about the mistake, And if it's a mistake, I say, oh man, yeah, I messed up. You got that, right?
Yep.
But some of these people are gatekeepers to what? Hmm, to what?
Nah.
Before I move on from you, what are you thinking about presenting on?
Oh man, I'm gonna build on. Yeah, I'm gonna go even further south with it, further than Punt. We're gonna go down to talk about what Dr. Ben was talking about down there in Uganda. Even down to Southern Africa with the Twi. Um, go down and build more on that, and it ties right into what you're talking about.
Of course. A lot of the animals, the funny thing is the Jetamonk, he does a lot of good stuff about plants and animals. And you find plants like the aloe and stuff, they originate in the southern parts, find themselves in Green Sahara, and then find themselves in the west. Camdiverse does a great job on parasites and pathogens that find themselves.
Oh yeah, he
Uh,
does. Yes, he does.
but he's according to the same people. He's a super pseudo, but his some of his work is really untouchable. Uh,
Yeah, they can't deal with that.
no, and then there's the UNESCO, the last UNESCO 9. I did something on Dr. Gardine, and I did something on Dr. Keita, right? But there's
Yeah,
other scholars, and then so it's a lot of stuff that we can learn, but we have been Egyptitized, hypnotized, right? Um, for maybe nothing else to talk about, and
yeah,
then it's the Christianized and the Hebrewized, right? Um, we haven't, and then unpacking Islam is interesting. Um, uh, it's 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 interesting. It's problematic. Um, they aid. They are the progenitors of uh, the modern Western thinking, right? The House of Wisdom and what the Arabs learned from ancient Egypt and from Greece and from the Byzantines. They are the daddies of the Western world. The Greeks were great, but they great in the sense of Europe, but the Arabs, when they became in the Dark Ages, it was the Arabs,
for sure.
the Islam, that brought them into the light. Otherwise, they would have just died, right?
Yeah, it reminded them of a lot of those things that they had learned. The Greeks had learned from the Egyptians in antiquity.
Exactly,
It was a
exactly,
reminder.
exactly. And so we have to responsibly deal with the positives and negatives of that culture, because they was one of the cultures they stopped the speaking language of ancient Egypt. They did do that.
Yeah.
They
Uh,
did. The
Reggie, you know
Moors,
about the brother Mr. Imhotep?
huh? Say
You know
what?
you know about the brother named Mr. Imhotep?
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to him. R.I.P. to him.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read some I originally got from him. I'm gonna source him that he got from Maria Gatto.
Oh
As
yeah.
far as
Another person who is like incredible, incredible. His name is Grassy C. You ever watch? You ever listen to Grassy C stuff?
never.
You never heard of Grassy C? Let me put up Grassy C. Grassy C is where Mr. Imhotep left off, right?
Hmm.
Grassy C is and there's King's monologue. I'm
Oh
not
yeah, I
gonna.
talked to King's Monologue. I know that brother.
And there's Titans TV, Grassy C. This dude, uh, let's see, Grassy C. Let me show you some of the things on Grassy C that he deals with, right? Gunpowder made in ancient Africa. Ancient Egyptians are the fathers of all Africa. Uh, he's lately had to go into some of the stuff, I guess, to get views, but his some of his ancient Egyptian stuff, ancient Africa stuff is great. Let me just see videos, see what we got. Not his lives. See some of his he's lately had, like a lot of people, ancient Egyptians in the eyes of the Greeks,
Mm.
Memnon in Africa, the king debate. He's done knowledge of the ancient countries, North African debate. He's been at it for a long time. If you go through his catalog, why Nubian married West Asian women, um, he gives his reason why. United Nations resolution on slavery. Grassy C is like, if I'm bored and I ain't got nothing to watch, I'll watch Grassy C. He does this great thing on the ancient Greek geographers, right? Uh, so he does a really great job on that, and so you can see his catalog. So
I'll check them out.
y'all give Grassy C a visit.
I see
He
he got
has
some on the Kata right there. You got that solar boat with the
right,
yeah, yeah.
right. So he's doing the kata, right? So y'all give Grassy C a follower. Um, he was confused about Moors, Egypt, and Atlantis. I don't know about that, but he's one of the people. But you already told you, so you'll look out. You'll look out for him
Yeah, I just
to
looked them up on my phone.
to look at some of the topics. He does this really great thing. If he would have debated Chief X on North Africa and uh, the Ptolemy the geographer, um, who the North Africans were, it would. I mean, Grassy C is really great, and he seems to be continental.
Brother Reg,
Um,
I know you know about the Bornu, right? Bornu Empire.
not my area right now. Go ahead.
I only brought that up because you start talking about North Africa and how the people who call people pseudo be the ones pseudo.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned how he Grassy C brought up talk about the original people of North Africa and going back and forth. If he would have debated X. Yeah, the Bornu
Yeah.
Empire, that guy said that that guy Ankh said that these people were Negroid. So you look at the Badarians, they're the earliest, and I think the brother I think King's monologue, I could be wrong. But I think he's going in a little bit too, but there's some sources about the Badarians having subnasal prognatism.
And that makes him what?
Well, you know, it can get ambiguous when you're talking about anthropology, but that's a trait that's in higher percentages among so-called Negroid populations.
Well, I mean, I think with the Bedarians, Dr. Shamaka Keita and others have shown, I don't know, Negro populations, but
Yeah, right.
yeah, but the Bedarians or the Tassians, the Bedarians, and then
Yes,
in
sir.
that area, the Nakadians, these was this area where these people crossed borders, and sometimes they warred. They were cattle culture groups of people. They were
Mm-hmm.
remnants of the Green Sahara, but they were African and not what Reisner and them was making. Um, the North Africa, uh, very few people talk about the Garamantes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, when they do, they talk about them hunting. They try to say that they're hunting uh, Nubians, but the Nubians are further down, so they're not hunting Nubians. They say sometimes they're hunting Ethiopians. So if they're hunting Ethiopians, where the people that they are supposed to be hunting, or the people that would be in so-called Egypt, um, just dealing with the Garamantes is important. And then the Garamantes seem to know a lot about the well digging uh, that the ancient Egyptians used. And then it's on the other side, it's the circular pyramids, of Selene and her husband. there's a whole group of pyramid building in Algeria, I think Tunisia, and they're circular pyramids,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um,
You got the pyramids in Igbo land too.
oh yeah, I've seen what's left of them. They seem to have
Yeah,
disappeared.
what's left of them.
Yeah. So there's a lot. There's a lot more to discover on our channels. So I'm glad to bring this program. That doesn't in any way deal with what sa.neter's mission is to wake up people, right? But Harwin, we have a large population of religious people. Immortal Dragon, a large population of religious people who always want to come in and change and Jose knows, wants to change the topic to the damn Bible.
They do that every chance they get. They'll throw that in there.
Oh, Kim Netter's on. Kim Netter, I'm sorry, you were silent. What's going on?
Oh, no, you good. I'm right here just hanging out, man. You did a good show. I think it was perfect.
No. Don't just hang out. So you know everybody, you've met everybody on this channel before, right?
Yeah.
You ain't got no beef with none of them, right?
Nah. Everybody on this channel right here sounds so far. Harley was getting at me a little bit in the chat, but I think he understood where I was coming from.
Yeah.
What's your name in the chat?
Gambino Green Thumb.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we all good on here, man. I think you did a good show. I don't think it was boring. I like when you get up here and teach and you keep it real cohesive like that. That way everybody can keep up with it, take notes if they need to, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know else. I've sat in classrooms and I've listened to lots and lots of lectures. And in the days that I was growing up, when Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark lectured, there was nothing else you can do but just applause, right? And take notes, right? And if you get up to ask a question, it could be a career ender, so it'd be better to shut up, right? But I've worked with them, seen them both in real life, not just seen them, worked with them, right, in real life, both of them. And yeah, so I know what it is to be. How can I say? Some people say things that's profound. I'm not trying to say anything that's profound. I'm just trying to point you to sources. I'm not the type of person. I have great work. I don't think, and I think it's really, really great work. But some people are trying to market themselves, trying to make themselves more important than they really are. But you got to remember, I'm 61 years old, and I've been in this stuff for about 40 years, right? Worked at the Schomburg Center. Yeah. So I'm older. I'm 61.
Yeah, somebody said that you were sitting at the feet of people and they standing on the shoulders. How you standing on their shoulders? You can't read none of this information. You don't study the people. You did a good representation of Kemet and pre-dynastic Egypt in this presentation. It was good.
Let me see. Watch this. Dr. Ben or Dr. Clark taught you the info I bring into this lion-ass community. Indigenous. Indigenous. Have you been to Africa, West Africa, and Egypt? Put it in the chat. Have you been there?
I always find it funny, Reggie, that the people that be in the chat that got the most arguing don't never come up to argue their points.
No.
I know they do. They come up.
Not him specifically. I know I've seen indigenous on here. I'm just saying in general. Most of the people that talk when the chat is open for them to come up here, they don't never come argue their points. They stay in the chat and just type away.
They don't really argue the point. They just get up here rambling like,
Kerma, he doesn't come up here to argue a point because he doesn't have a point.
What's going on, Francis, man? Long time, man. I seen you up here a couple of days back, and before that, I ain't seen you in a minute.
Yeah, man. What is he going to argue when he comes on the platform? Nothing, and that's the point.
Same thing. I
Well,
don't be arguing.
He pulls a science shuffle like the Hebrews do the Hebrew shuffle, bro.
He's
Anytime we're
irrelevant to the
talking about
point.
anytime we do a
Man.
topic about some old world stuff, he'd be like, well,
Don't
you
even
see, the
bring the
problem is what they
Hebrews
had
in
is they
right
don't
now.
have modern science. And it'd be like, bro, we're not even on modern science right now. We're talking about ancient culture, bro. Like, relax.
Oh man.
right, but so that is the key point. We are largely trying to talk about ancient culture, right? On this chat, even if it has to do with biblical stuff, right? Biblical stuff, it's still ancient culture, right? If you want to talk about modern, then talk about how we are actually applying it practically, right? To change our condition. Otherwise, we're still trying to know ourselves and know enough about our ancestors. Bringing us to Charles Darwin and evolution is a complete waste of time. It's a complete waste of time, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, in the context of speaking of something ancient, yeah, it
Yeah,
ain't there.
and just in general, I can see if you want to argue with religious people over evolution, then please bring that up. But generally, we're way past Charles Darwin, and
I
and
heard Yara say some crazy stuff the other day, man. He said his God was working through evolution when the world was void. He said he caused evolution and made it just, oh my God.
uh,
Yara be killing me, man.
yeah,
Oh
Yara is
man. He be
but he's
killing me.
not. He's smarter than a lot of them. He
Yeah.
just
I know that's why he killed me when he take these wild stances.
he's just trapped in religion, right? But that's not. Listen, they can't get a channel. Where's their channel on religion? See, first of all, you can't get them all in one room because they hate each other. They only
Oh
group
yeah.
together against anything African, right? But among themselves, they're not entertaining Mr. Moses over there. They're not
Yeah, you
entertaining
put 10
Mr.
of them
Moses.
in the room, man, with a Bible, man, they'll have 10 different teachings from the same book.
Exactly. And then they get to fighting just like they have done since the beginning of time. The original ones, they're the converts. So, but we are trying to learn about Africa. They always try to stop us from learning about Africa by interjecting and trying to bring it back into themselves, right? So we have Southern Africa to talk about. We
Gotta
have,
talk about Southern Africa.
huh? Yeah, we have, uh, uh, and we have Central Africa to talk about and we have early cultures before Wagadu, right, in West Africa that we need to talk about, right? And how does that help us? It stretches our brain from because we've been chematized on this channel. How long we've been chematized on this channel?
A long
Woo!
time, Reggie.
Long time, man.
And you got to be specific, Reggie. Chematized by those cosplaying Kemet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, if you're really new, I just don't want to do it right now. But natures live and die. They go sleepy. So if they go sleepy in their own text, then why are you still calling on them?
It's not just principles either.
No, no, they're real live. They no. But if you listen to the favorite Kemet person, right, who gets promoted, fine.
Oh
And
yeah, Saga
everyone,
got a witness protection program.
you said what? Yeah,
I said
yeah,
Saga witness protection.
yeah. Uh, I'm trying to find out where is this picture. Uh, yeah, and so you can't break through. It's okay when you're battling religion. That's fine. It's actually okay. But then that's it. That's where you get stuck. You stay stuck. Here's my favorite picture. Here's one of my favorite pictures. I'll show it to you. show you one of my favorite pictures.
What you about to do, Reggie, man?
No, it's two indigenous black men. Let me show 'em. All right.
Reggie got some subliminals on it.
No, I just want
Hey,
to show
no,
one
see,
of my.
look, I love me a irritated Reggie, but when he don't take it personal, because when they irritate Reggie, he bring out sources that he was gonna always let him slide by on and just let him live. But then when they piss him off, he be like, you know what? Now I'm gonna do this to you, and then he give us some shit that was like, oh my god. So I like when they piss him off, honestly.
Yeah, Reggie crash out moments. One
Yeah, I
second.
love that because you kill them hard when they do that.
Yeah. Uh, I want indigenous. So here you go, indigenous. Right. I'm gonna show you this indigenous. Share screen. Okay. Here you go. Share the screen. The indigenous. Who's that indigenous? Who's that? Who's that in the brown, y'all?
Oh, that's
Oh
young Reg.
man,
Huh?
That's young
that's young
Reg.
Reggie.
That's Reggie, right? Who's that next to Reggie?
Oh, we know that's Mr.
John
Clark.
Henry Clark. We know that's John Henry Clark.
But watch this. This is Dr. Clark when he could see. You know how old this is? Huh?
From the looks of it, it looked like it's still in the 90s.
Or earlier. It looks like
Man, that look like the
77,
80s, man.
80, 81-ish.
Late 70s.
Those
Late
type
70s,
of
early
first
80s.
color photos.
This is about 80. This is about 80, 80, 80, 86, 87. Well,
It's close.
right. So I was with Dr. Clark because he asked me to be his escort when meeting on Bishop Tutu, which he had already met, right? But he called my director. I thought I was getting fired because I was working at the Schomburg. And he called my director, and my director called me into the office. And when he called me into the office, I thought I did something wrong. He says, tomorrow at 7:00, you are to report. You report to receive Dr. John Henry Clark. And it was pretty much I had no choice, right? But it was my pleasure because Dr. Clark asked me to be his escort. Indigenous black man, where were you here on this day? Who's that? Anybody see that?
That looked like young Reggie on the left again.
Yeah, that's young Reggie. This is my brother Derek. And this is Reverend Butts. And the deceased ancestor is Dr. John Henry Clark. Right? And I am his pallbearer.
Oh, this real history right here.
Yeah. I can find something. So indigenous black man, I just want to know indigenous black man. I'm gonna stop sharing for now. Where were you? My brother indigenous black man, where were you? Huh? I just let me see if I can pull this up. There is wow, Scott 86. Let's see if I can pull this up. I just want to know since I learned everything from you. I just want to know maybe I met you. But how can I say I knew everybody? I didn't know you. Okay, ASCAC 86. It could probably be on my yeah, but I'm not. This show's not. Let me see, Dr. Riquet. See, let me just try to figure out. Okay, I go on my yeah. Oh, I know where it is. It's in my it's on my page. It's on I think it's on Africa Online TV. So I just want to know. Let me see where indigenous black man. Where I just want to check. Where were you? Right. Since Dr. Clark and them didn't teach me nothing. I'm just checking. Look, I come to help out. That's all. I pretty much come to help out. That's pretty much it, right? And I support the younger generation, and some people get a little upset. I don't like everybody making everything black. I don't like the presentation on like the Moors. I respect the modern day Moors for my own reasons, but I don't respect necessarily what they believe in. I mean the Moors, the Black Moors is probably one of the worst civilizations that we've ever had, cultures that we've ever had. They're the reason for the trans-Saharan slave trade.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
I got a love-hate relationship with them because of that.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
What did they do great for Africans?
They did some bad things for Africans. Some real bad things.
Okay, so let me share the screen over here. So share the screen over here, because just say indigenous Black man. I just want to just check, man. I just want to check, man. You my man, but I just want to check something. Okay, so yeah, here you go. Indigenous, right? Okay, this is roughly 1985, right? This is 1985. Who's that?
I wasn't even born yet.
I was about to say the same thing. I hadn't even got put in the belly yet.
I ain't come to 5 years later.
Okay.
Me too,
who's this right here?
We know that's Reg.
Yeah, so he go Reggie talking.
Documentary, whether it's written or spoken, or passed on from word to from mouth to ear to mouth about who they are and what they are, and with that, they have been able to extrapolate on the future. For instance, we have Christians who study the Bible, right? And because of somebody else's experience, they can chart, Armageddon or something like that. And that's such. They can actually, that's how they focus. They use that history, the example, to look at past experiences, to see connections of things arising, and then they chart it. And we need to begin a process like that where we can actually learn what we have done.
Now this is 1986 when I'm talking about the Bible, because the Bible people are organized. We're not organized, right? Who's this right here?
The point of methodology is, how do you go about gaining that knowledge? How do you go about seeking that knowledge? What methods and what techniques do you use? For example, all of us read hundreds of books, I know, about African history. When we read the books.
Who's that, y'all? Anybody know?
Dr. Rethinking.
There you go. That's Dr. Rethinking.
So Chicago, right from where I'm from.
Yeah, so me and Dr. Rethinking,
right? How do
we're on the same path.
What's called,
Right, we're on the same path. Wait, that's 1986, right? Okay, so watch this. So who I'm the chair of this panel. I'm the first vice president of study groups in ASCAC, right? Right. So I get to introduce.
Based upon journalists.
Who's that? Anybody know?
Local Rashidi? I think
no.
No, that ain't Renuko. That's
bad that I don't know that.
Okay,
that's bad I don't know that, but I don't know.
That robs sex, that is normal sex, of its enjoyment. That's something that Dr. Baby Yakin has been preaching ever since I have known him. He's been trying to educate us on that point. How can we accept a model of family that robs sexual intercourse of its enjoyment? That is normal sexual intercourse. How can we accept a model of family that glorifies orgies and homosexuality? That is, how can we do that? It doesn't work for us. It doesn't really work for them. But certainly we can't accept that model. So what we have to understand is that we cannot be used to dismantle our family and force upon the minds of African people that kind of family model. What we really have to do is to do what Sosostris was talking about, and that is come back to the Black land. We have to come back to our own heritage. And we have to look at
who is that? You don't know?
I'm too young to know.
That's Dr. Jacob Carruthers. Dr. Jacob Carruthers is the he was our leader in ASCAC. He was our greatest, one of our greatest intellectuals. He was a lawyer, before that, a preacher, a lawyer, and one of our greatest minds in the Nile Valley culture, Dr. Jacob Carruthers. And remember, this is my panel, right? Let's go over here. Oh, who's this young fella over here?
President Dr. Carruthers really summed up spiritualism without calling it that. Because he emphasized on the basis for what is spiritualism. We have to understand.
Who's that?
That's Dr. Ben.
Okay. So Indigenous Black man, was you here? Because I was here, Indigenous Black man, huh? I just want to know, was you here? Right? So I learned everything from you, huh? Right?
Didn't I recently see you doing some ASCAT too? In a conference recently?
You said what?
I said, when you recently in the ASCAT conference?
Maybe 2 years ago was the last one. Maybe last.
Yeah,
maybe
I thought I
last
remember
year.
seeing you post something more recent on it too.
No. Yeah, I presented ASCAC. I presented ASCAC maybe about 4 or 5 times. I presented at ASCAC, but I presented at ASCAC in Egypt. When I went to Egypt in '87, I presented. Right? Let's see. Anything? I just want to check with Indigenous Black man. Was you at any?
Hey, before you keep going there,
he might do. Hey, Suntan, what's going on,
out of here, brother?
Yeah, I'm getting ready in soon.
Peace.
Did Suntan come up here? Who's missing? No, Suntan ain't coming. So yeah, I'm getting ready in. I just want to check. Indigenous. You know, I hear you. I learned everything from you, but I think I was in these lectures. Wait. Let me just see. Show me any of these people teaching Bloom-Bach, lineal masters, the weaponizing of Mendel's theory, Darwin's book titled Racist. You're welcome.
What?
No. Dr. Ben, of course, if you ever been to his library, Dr. Ben's, I'll say 50-60% of Dr. Ben's library was great Europeans. So Dr. Ben was definitely an expert, and you've seen him in his debates. But Indigenous, you my dude, man, just come up and present.
What book title he talking about was racist? I know he's not talking about favorite races.
He told me. He said, what did he say? Mendel. What did he say?
I didn't get the call. I seen when it was a little too late. No, I say something about you heard. I heard you say something about a racist book title.
Yeah. So I'm go. Here it goes.
Yeah. What book title?
Yeah. So I don't. No, Indigenous. We all are great minds, and we are a community. But I don't swear that I teach, and I don't care because most of the things that I learn, I just cite who I learned it from, and I tell you what my original thoughts are. And if I have original thinking that I think is important, guess what? I write a paper on it. That's all. I write a paper on it, right? And struggle like everybody else to get it published. So with that said, any last words before?
I just want to just say you did a good show, man, and keep it up. And also, thanks for taking that time off and reading me and Neil book and giving me your feedback. I appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm gonna we can you heard my comments, right? My major
Absolutely.
comments is
Absolutely.
the
About
difference
adding the maps and some photos of the sources and things out there. I took notes on.
Yeah, that's addition two. But I would rather you go to your local libraries, and
Oh yeah, that too.
that's important because most of these books are or in behind paywalls, right? And so when it's behind a paywall, nobody knows about it, right? Nobody knows about it. But I think that you did y'all did a great job of including vast parts of of the history in the regions, right? And so it's worth reading. So tell them what the name of your book is, Kimna.
It's called African Continuum. The cultures between West Africa and Kemet and the shared history. But yeah, y'all can go check it out. If y'all want to see what we talking about in that joint, I'll drop a link.
And maybe one day you can go and you can do a show on it, right? And
yeah, me and Neil was talking about coming up and doing something on it.
Yeah, that would be good. You know, you're talking about vast regions, and so what can I say? At least you did a starting point. Just like I was talking about very narrowly groups within ancient Egypt. You go to the west and other areas, right? So shout out to y'all, and looking forward to a show that y'all do, right? And I'll be on and do another show. And so with that, it's 12:24 in the morning.
Peace, man. Peace.
Yeah, I want to say support your brother Reggie before I go off. Buy me a cup of coffee. Buy me something from breakfast. And I like to come on again, but what it is that this is sa.neter's channel, and he works hard, and he actually allows me to come on the channel, right? He actually allows me to come to the channel, so I do appreciate that. So with that said, Mortal Dragon, thanks for showing up, man. I haven't got a chance to talk to you. Kim Netta, thanks, man, and Herwin. I'm really excited about, and so we got enough young people who can actually now do a panel and a show. So look out for that. Bindu, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brother Reggie. Good presentation. Have a good night.
Thank you. And Suntan, thanks for all that you do. I so appreciate you. So with that said, I'm going to play one of sa.neter's greatest hits, Trapped in Religion. I'm dedicated to Moses and James Strong. All right, so stay on. This song goes out to Moses and James Strong. Where is it? Let's see. For my brothers, here it goes.
I need you to help me on this mission. Yeah. This is for my brothers trapped in religion. Open up your eyes, break out of the prison. This is for my brothers trapped in religion. sa.neter be the truth, you know he's on a mission. It's sad to see my brothers are so lost. It's sad to see you believe in things that's false. It's sad to see you believe in Jesus, where your logic breaks apart in 1,000 pieces. Oh, God killer, not gonna let that slide. You drowning in a myth, you had nowhere to hide. The hate show okay. It's the toughest environment while we trade blind faith for mental empowerment. I believe in scriptures for your mind, this is the key. It's time to unlearn everything you believe. The house of consciousness, start looking within. That's where the real liberation begins. Oh, this is for my brothers trapped in religion. Open up your eyes, break out of that prison. This is for my brother trapped in religion. Sa.neter be the truth, you know he's on a mission. The HOK is more than just a place. It's a tough environment where you check your faith. Bomb squad and pseudo killers who check your sources. Don't come in front cause you will leave a loss. It's the Bible written to break your spirit, built to keep you low, feeding you metaphors, stopping your growth. These is for my brothers trapped in religion. Sa.neter be the truth, you know he's on a mission. It's sad to see my brothers all so lost. It's sad to see you believe in things that's false. It's sad to see you believe in Jesus, while your logic breaks apart in 1,000 pieces. I need you to help me on this mission. Yeah. This is for my brothers trapped in religion. Open up your eyes, break out of the prison. This is for my brothers trapped in religion. Sa.neter be the truth, you know he's on a mission. It's sad to see my brothers all so lost. It's sad to see you believe in things that's false. It's sad to see you believe in Jesus, while your logic breaks apart in 1,000 pieces. Oh, God killer, not gonna let that slide. You drowning in a myth, you had nowhere to hide. The HOK is the toughest environment while we trade blind faith for mental empowerment. I believe in scriptures for your mind, this is the key. It's time to unlearn everything you believe. The house of consciousness, start looking within. That's where the real liberation begins. Oh, this is for my brothers trapped in religion. Open up your eyes, break out of that prison. This is for my brother trapped in religion. Sa.neter be the truth, you know he's on a mission. The HOK is more than just a place. It's a tough environment where you check your faith. Bomb squad and pseudo killers who check your sources. Don't come in front cause you will leave a loss. It's the Bible written to break your spirit, built to keep you low, feeding you metaphors, stopping your growth. These is for my brothers trapped in religion. Sa.neter be the truth, you know he's on a mission. Sad to see my brothers all so lost. It's sad to see you believe in things that's false. It's sad to see you believe in Jesus, while your logic breaks apart in 1,000 pieces.